right, I think it's 5:30 now. I'll call this meeting to order of the Southeast Polk Community School District Board of Education, May 21st, 2020, 5:30. Karen, can you go ahead and call the roll?
Andy,
Here.
Fisher,
Here.
Krell, Nave,
Here.
Powell,
Here.
Slings, here, Crab,
Here.
All right, we've got our quorum. First item is 1B, agenda adoption. Dirk, are there any changes?
There is one correction on 2A, the confirmation of next meeting. There was a mistake there. That should be June 11th, not June 18th. Karen has changed it online already.
All right. Okay, with that change, do I have a motion?
So just to clarify, the meeting's June 11th?
Correct.
Okay.
Move to approve.
I'll make a motion if it hasn't been done so.
No? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Karen, did you get that?
yeah,
All right.
Fisher,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Slings, yes, Crab,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
All right. Item 1C is district vision and mission. Chad?
Our district vision and mission are to learn, lead, live, success for college, career, and civic life. Engage all students in learning a challenging curriculum delivered through quality instruction.
Great, thank you. Item 1D is the time of our meeting for public comments. I know we have at least one party that wishes to address the board. I think.
they would just like to have Jason play that link that's there.
All right, okay. Wow, that's impressive. Very, very nice. Thank you. That was I guess a slide video type presentation from the Southeast Polk Education Association for board recognition. That's nice. Thank you. I'm just checking my computer here. It says no public comments written or via email to our board secretary. I'll wait here just a few seconds to see if somebody is going to try to access through the online portal. All right, Jason, you don't see anybody trying to click in, do you?
No, I don't.
All right. Okay, we'll proceed. Thank you again for that slideshow. That's pretty neat. You know, it's kind of a thankless job, but now it's not. We just got a bunch of thank yous. That's pretty cool. Next item is 1E, consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, any discussion, comments, questions? Wow, everybody's quiet. Okay. Guess we'll go ahead and vote. Karen?
Nave,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Slings,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes. All right. Next item is Roman numeral 2, old and new business. A is confirmation of next meeting as amended. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Rick.
I'll second it.
Second.
Okay, Karen?
Powell,
Yes.
Slings,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
All right, next item is 2B, second read of policy 50304R1, student conduct code regulation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Okay, Karen?
Slings,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
All right, the next item is item Roman numeral 2C, FY21, salary and wages, administration and other professional staff. I have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right, any questions, discussion, comments?
Well deserved.
I would like to see it. I would like to see it more than what it is, because I know how much time and effort has been given, especially this year, all the time, but especially this year, it just seems inadequate. But I understand the times. I just wish that it could be more.
Anyone else? All right, Karen,
Crab,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Fisher,
yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Slings,
yes,
All right, our next item is Roman numeral 2D. Board meeting schedule. There sure are a lot of dates on there. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
I'll second it.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, Karen,
Handy,
Yes.
Fisher,
yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Slings,
yes,
Crab,
Yes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is Roman numeral 2 E, public hearing for fiscal year 2020 budget amendment. Motion,
I don't think we need the motion right now. President Fisher, I just think we need to open the public hearing.
oh, all right, I'm sorry. I don't know if I've got. Well, at this time, I will open the public hearing on the fiscal year 2020 budget amendment. At the time being, at least according to my computer, 5:43. Is there anybody wishing to address the board on the hearing for the budget amendment?
President Fisher, I've had no comments to me either in writing or via email.
Okay. Jason, is there anyone trying to access the portal?
No.
Okay. Well, at a whole minute later at 5:44, I'll close the hearing for the fiscal year 2020 budget amendment. So we've had our hearing. Next item is Roman numeral 2F, fiscal year 2020 budget amendment. Now I have a motion on that one. Is
Move to approve.
that Tom?
As Tom.
All right. Second?
Second.
That's Karen's call. Any questions or comments? Or Kevin, did you want to say anything about it?
Just a brief overview on this. It's about $730,000 of additional budget, not to be added in cash, but just in authority to be able to use. That's about 0.7% of the original budget in the various areas, and about 50% of that budget amendment going to accelerated capital projects moving forward because of the early closure of schools.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? All right, I think we'll vote. Karen?
Fisher,
Yes?
Nave,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Slings,
yes,
Crab,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
All right, that concludes our business meeting portion of our meeting. Now our meeting turns to topics for discussion. Roman numeral 3, the first item is Superintendents Report. Dirk?
Thank you. A few things tonight. I want to share some some good news items. Want to recognize the high school, junior high, 4 Mile, Mitchellville Elementary, and Willowbrook Elementary. Each one of those buildings were identified as Project Lead the Way distinguished schools. So they were honored for their work in STEM and pre-engineering and science with our students. Just to give you an idea of how big of a deal that is, there were 11 total buildings recognized statewide. 5 of them are Southeast Polk buildings. So that's pretty awesome. So I wanted to make sure that was out there. Just following up with awesome, Dollars for Scholars, as we know, last week awarded their scholarships. Over $260,000 was doled out to Southeast Polk students for the next step in their educational plans. And for the first time in Dollars for Scholars history, every student that applied received an award. So again, hats off to the community and Dollars for Scholars for that great work. We had Amy Ahern in our last meeting giving us a grab and go update. And I did just kind of want to tell everybody we crossed the 200,000 meal threshold today. We've actually given out 213,000 meals since this has begun. Pretty incredible. We did, over the course of the last week, receive our CARES Act stimulus check. So the funds that have come along with that stimulus program are here. And now the fun is for Kevin to figure out how to work the accounting magic on all of those kind of things for those costs that we've accrued based on the pandemic. I don't want to go in too much detail because we will be putting out a fairly rigorous press release on this in the near future, but I've kind of hinted before that we got some incredible support from Facebook to the tune of about $220,000 to help us with our technology initiatives and the ability to pivot like we have to online instruction. And that's, again, community support for education. It's just something that, I mean, it's unheard of, the $250,000 like that. And like I said, we'll be doing an official thank you and press release with that in the near future. Altoona Elementary, we had a local group step up to donate books to Altoona Elementary students for the summer. So as they're going through their checkout process at the end of the year here, they'll also be receiving some books that they'll be able to utilize and read and keep up with their literacy over the course of this summer. So that's another kind of special thing. And then 2 final things. Summer learning and summer sports. The last 2 days has been quite a big splash with the governor's announcement and the kind of the DE following that up today in the press conference, starting to open things back up as we're moving forward into June here. There's still a lot of additional guidance to come from the governing bodies of both softball and baseball, along with the Department of Ed for the rest of that. We'll be working to determine what the best course of action is moving forward, and obviously safety for everybody involved is going to drive every single thing that we do. So expect to hear more about that over the next few days as we get more of that guidance as well. And then the final thing that I want to say is just a special message of congratulations to our seniors. Today was their last official day of school on the calendar. And so we'll be honoring them over the course of this weekend. I don't want to steal Mr. Pettit's thunder because he's going to be talking about that in more detail below. But I did want to make sure that we gave our seniors a shout out today at this meeting, since it was officially their last day of school at Southeast Polk today. With that, I won't go through the meetings. Every day is one long Zoom meeting for all of us, I think. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer.
Are we going to talk any further about baseball and softball?
We sure can.
Number one, I'm all for it. I think our coaches will I have trust that they'll follow the state guidelines and the CIML guidelines. I realize that the Des Moines schools are still on the fence, but I hope we take every precaution that is given by both the state and the conference that we play in, the league that we play in. And I hope we keep our balls sanitized. I hope we are really careful with our umpires that are maybe at a stage in their life where they have to be very careful for some of them. And I hope that our teams can practice in groups like they're suggesting. And I hope that our seating we have a plan. And I hope most of all, I hope we have a plan of what to do if somebody gets tested positive, and that Southeast Polk is prepared. And we're the only state in the United States that plays high school sports in the summer, so there's going to be a huge media presence in the state of Iowa. We're opening up before Major League Baseball, before NBA, before NFL, before college sports. We're first, and I hope we can shine. I hope we do things correctly. And I love baseball, softball. It's an outside sport. I think it's a great way to start. I just hope that we understand we live in an age where social media is big. And, I think we need to talk about as a district, if concession stands are closed and coolers are allowed, I don't know, I'm a little nervous about what might be brought in some of those coolers, but overall, I'm just glad to hear where the governor's remarks the other day and the CIML and the Boys Association and the Girls Union approval. And I think every district has to decide themselves. I hope we're in favor of this. That's just my opinion.
And it's my understanding the CIML athletic directors are meeting tomorrow, and that'll help as they kind of walk through those kind of things. And then, like I said earlier, both the Girls Union and the Boys Association are going to be giving some specifics of the requirements as far as moving forward. And absolutely, like always, 100% safety is what's going to drive all of this. If we can't do it safely, we can't do it. But I think there's a hope that we can figure out with everybody working together a way to make everything work in a safe manner.
Dirk, will the athletic directors get to meet with the unions to have a say in some of this? As we started our meeting, obviously, or before our meeting, I guess, when we were talking about like Menards and all those other businesses that get to have X amount of people. And I agree with Rick, this is an outdoor sporting event. I think we can trust in each person to make their own decisions as far as a family of what their child does or what they do as a spectator. And I'd hate to, put a lot of restrictions on something to change the actual game, because it can take the fun out of it as well too. So I guess my question is do we get a say, I guess, a little bit on how we proceed?
I think absolutely. I think each district has full say on whether they want to proceed even. As far as the rules of the game and things like that, that's what we're waiting for a little bit more guidance from the associations. It sounds like they're trying to keep the integrity of the game, which obviously is important. I think that's part of what you were saying there. And yes, I know that Jason has, Campbell has contacts in both of those organizations where he can kind of have a conduit back and forth.
Yeah, I think if this was an indoor sport or during the time, obviously our curve's going down, and I think it'll keep going down. And I just want to repeat that again, that I think we need to trust our families to do the right thing for what they will do. And even though we have a right, and a obligation to protect our staff, students, coaches, all that, I think I'd like to see us somewhat, maybe not 50% in the stands, I'd like to see 100%, but obviously we gotta, obey the state law, but I guess I'll say like, I don't want to see too many restrictions on no parents in the stands, those type of things. So I guess that's all I'll say for now, but I say play ball.
I think we're very fortunate that we have two summer sports that are very popular, and it'll be a great test. If we can show that we can run these sports successfully and social distance and do all the right things, it's going to be just a positive step for the next school year and all the activities that go into the next school year and all the activities next year.
Any other questions or comments on Dirk's report?
I don't have any questions, but I'd like to say that there were a lot of bright spots in that report. It's pretty collectively a pretty dark time in a lot of ways, but to see the project lead the way, the Facebook stepping up, and all the other things that you reported on there, I think it's a lot of positives. So.
For sure. Anybody have anything else? All right, our next item, I see Kevin's there chomping at the bit, are monthly financials.
Good evening, board. Now for the fun stuff. Monthly financials through the month of April. General fund revenues up 3.2%, expenditures up 3.4%, nothing new and fancy. One thing that did stick out to me as you look at those reports on both the general fund and all funds report was the utility replacement tax as far as the revenue side. There was a significant drop, and when I looked at that initially, there was a big alarm with it because we didn't receive our second half utility replacement money. And investigating a little bit further, we have received that now. I thought maybe it had something to do with what was going on with COVID, but we have received that now for May, so that should be coming right back up. As far as other things to point out within the report, student activity revenues are down 10%, and that obviously is due to the COVID issues and not having those fundraisers and receipts coming through those athletic clubs and camps and such. Medicaid revenue, when it comes to that, you heard me talk before about Medicaid revenue and how that's going to be down this year and how that's going to adversely affect the special education deficit. The state has rolled back a little bit of their administrative fee. We'll do that retro back to January 1st. So we'll see a little bit more of that money. And then also the one final thing is regarding food service. Dr. Lupnick had mentioned a few things about food service. One thing that did come through from Amy, Director Ahern, was that of the donations we have received throughout the communities, all of our negative balance have now been relieved with all those donations. So right now we are at a zero balance in our negative deficit accounts, so our deficit lunch accounts. So that's awesome.
That's fantastic.
Are there any questions for me regarding the monthly financials through April?
No, sounds good, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Kevin, before you go, have we ever had all that paid off? That's amazing.
We have not. So this is the first time. So appreciate all those things. We've tried to send out little blurbs and social media with all those people that have sent us, sending us donations. So it's a great thing.
Fantastic. All right, our next item. Well, anything more on financials? Doesn't look like it. Our next item, also for Kevin's 2020-2021 student fees.
The student fees for next year will remain the same. The only fee that will change will be the adult lunch, and that was required from the State Department to move that to $3.85 to meet their minimum requirements. Everything else will remain the same.
Any questions or comments on that? All right. Looks like the next, thank you, Kevin. Our next item is item D, 2020-21 handbooks. There any questions or comments? Dirk, is anybody presenting on that, or?
We had someone to talk a little bit about that. If not, I will. I know that the attachment in there. Oh, Jeannie's here.
Okay.
If you look at that attachment, you can see that there are additions in there in green and deletions in red. And then a few changes in blue.
I have a question on a couple of things while Jeannie is getting ready. I don't know if she can hear or we want to, is she getting on?
Yes, I see her.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Can
that's
you hear
fine.
me?
I can.
Yes.
Excellent. So good evening, everybody. I am Jeannie Christensen. I'm not sure, can you, I'm glad you can hear me now. I have submitted for your review the suggested changes for the handbook as provided to me from the different buildings and departments. And so, yes, as Dr. Hlepnik just mentioned, anything that is in green is new that they would like to have added. Anything that's red, they're suggesting to delete, and a blue would just mean a change in a word or just a minor change. So did, Brett, did you have some questions?
Yeah, I guess the one that, well, there's two of them in the very first page there, talks about water bottles and then public displays of affection. I guess, can someone explain, I guess, why we wouldn't allow water bottles in school? Are we having an issue with something with that?
These were provided by Mr. Bartles, but I do believe that the reason why is because kids are, when they say a water bottle, they're meaning like a Yeti, you know what I mean? And so people are not putting water in the water bottles. The other water bottles, they're putting in other colorless fluids that are not water.
Ah.
So, and I know you're just the messenger, Jeannie, so I apologize for the questions, but
No worries.
the flavor additives, I mean, I guess we kind of get into a little issue on whether, I get the clear, but I think just by saying water bottles, period, I think that when I read that, it meant no water bottles, because a water bottle to me is like an athletic water bottle. Could be, say, I know we've got kids that have yellow ones that say Sally's Polk on them, or chrome ones, stainless steel, or whatever they are. I would hate to, I know we can't go through and drink and test waters, but I guess maybe we need to clear that up if that's specifically, if they want something in there that spells it out a little bit better, because reading that, I took it as no water bottles at all, unless you have a doctor's note.
I'd be happy to follow up with Mr. Bartles and see what he has in mind.
And we definitely will.
Maybe we can be a little more clear, you know, sort of clarify the language so that there's not that gray area.
Yeah, I guess if I'm the only one reading it that way, I guess then.
I thought the same thing, Brett.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, I did too. The other thing I'd piggyback on top of that, and maybe this will be part of guidance that we receive, but considering, the situation that we're in, I don't know how safe or unsafe like a water fountain is. relative to people having their own water bottles. I know a lot of the athletic recommendations for baseball and softball were kids need to bring their own bottles and things like that. So I wonder if that kind of plays into this decision as well.
Yeah, great point, Chad. So,
I guess if, yeah, if you could just look at that and kind of clear that up, I guess, and determine what is accepted, what isn't. And as long as we aren't denying water to students, because we did put a lot of those, even though contrary to what Chad said, we did put a lot of money into putting in those water bottle fillers, so.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you. I'll take those suggestions and get back to you. And then also wanted to make sure that this was just for the junior high and was not for any of the other buildings. I want to clarify that.
Oh, this one's, yeah, this is just on the junior high. I didn't see it on the
Right.
one, so. And then the other question I had was public displays of affection. How do we stop that? How do you stop kids from holding hands? And I think I made a comment earlier about, it sounds like a movie like Footloose or something, where we're trying to they're teenage kids. I mean, they're going to hold hands, they may kiss, and I don't want it to be a national emergency if we happen to have a couple of kids kissing in the hallway before class and holding hands while walking from class. So I guess I get it if it's anything beyond that, but I guess I'm having a little trouble figuring this one out, why we're gonna try to because that could stop. I mean, we got teachers that work in the same building that are married that I sure hope they wouldn't kiss each other before and after school, because we would kind of be hypocrites. So I guess maybe we can reword that or get a little better understanding of what that is.
And we'll go back to the junior high administrators and get a little bit more info on that and bring it back.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I have. That was probably more than needed to hear, but I guess that's all I got.
Brett is kinder and softer and gentler. He's a whole new you.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, that's good. Any other comments or questions about the changes to the handbooks? When, Dirk, when will this come to the board?
It'll come in June, unless we have other issues between now and then. But normally we do that at the June meeting. One thing I did want to add, probably the biggest change in all these is we have pulled the health guidelines at this point, because we've been told by Polk County Health, they're all going to be completely different. And so those will be reinserted once that guidance comes out from the federal and state level. So when you look in there, that is a big change right now, because they're all under that deletion technically right now, but they won't be deleted forever, because those are state and federally mandated.
There goes the kissing and hugging. All right, anything else on handbooks?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thanks, Jeannie.
Thanks, Jeannie.
My pleasure.
All right, our next item is Roman numeral 3E, Southeast Polk Continuous Learning Plan, Return to Learn.
Okay, I believe I'm connected now.
Yep.
Good evening, board. Okay, Very good. I'm here this evening to talk a little bit about the learning plans that are starting to take shape. Pull up my screen here. Let's see. Let's try that again. Okay, it's getting there. So I think it wasn't too long ago that I was here visiting with you about our continuous learning plans. And I will summarize those a little bit tonight, but it's like we got those into place and now we're all taking a look towards the fall. A lot of unknowns yet, but we didn't have much, if any, preparation as we went into this format of remote learning. And so as we anticipate some potential changes in the fall, starting to make some preparations for how we might provide the best pathways for instruction for our students. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about some of those initial conversations that we're having. And again, I did appreciate what the teachers put together, and thank you, board, for everything you do. And we also want to do a thank you to the teachers for all that they have done, not only during Teacher Appreciation Week, but all throughout the year. I think Rick said earlier, this was just such a shift and such a switch, and people have stepped up in an amazing way, and that's been great to see for kids. When I was here a few weeks ago, we shared with you the beginning of a learning resources site, and that has beginning to take a little bit more shape. This is linked directly on our school website. And we have some basic information on the front page. And we also have our learning packets. So each week we have the learning packets electronically if people would prefer an electronic copy rather than a hard copy. And then some parents have said they like to go back with the other ones. So we've archived each week. So parents can either get the archives or the current week that is coming up. As we showed before, each building has a site. That site is updated weekly, if not more frequently, and provides information to families, how they can access each grade level, how they can see office hours, all the different information that they need. You can see art, music, band, special education. So everything is connected on one site and families are able to access that. Let me see if I can get back to, there we go. So again, as we have the continuous learning plans up and running and actually winding down over the next week and a half or so, we are taking a look towards summer learning as well as learning in the fall. And the Department of Education has released their return to learn plans. And they are asking each district to file a return to learn plan by July 1st. So we will be working on that pretty intensively over the next 6 weeks. And these are the areas that they have identified. So while I'm going to talk about academics tonight, you can see that there are many considerations. So even as you talked about sports coming back up again, it's more than just sports. It's about the health and safety and the fans and the players and everything else that goes along with that. So these are the areas that they identify. And from that, you can see in the bold, these are the areas for the action plan that we are currently putting together. So you can see the leadership, communication, infrastructure, and I know we'll have many board conversations in regards to what that looks like to support the needs moving forward. Health and safety, obviously in a pandemic, that's a significant area. And then the ones towards the bottom half are really related to teaching and learning. So the academic content standards, equity will be a significant portion, and we'll talk about that a little bit as we move from optional or voluntary to required. And then professional learning will also be important because this is a new way of teaching and how can we provide the professional learning to support that. And last but not least, the social emotional support through these times that's needed for teachers, staff, students, and their families. So each of these areas we'll be working on and then putting them all back together for one return to learn plan in the fall. So one thing that the state has asked every district to get ready for are 3 pathways for continuous learning. So the first one they've asked us to prepare for is an online continuous learning model, and that's very similar to our current model. And I showed you the sites and the things that teachers have put together. But the one difference is we were able to waive the days that we missed this year by having a voluntary plan. And in order to waive any days that we might miss next year, it needs to move from voluntary to required. So we will work with the current continuous learning plan we have in place and moving that so that we can go from voluntary to required. In order to do that, the one thing that was really keeping us from moving in that direction was the equity piece. And we have made strides towards that in regards to technology access and devices, and now working on the educational content to make sure that that is equitable as well. The second pathway for us to prepare for is the on-site learning model, which would be our traditional face-to-face, but there will be nothing traditional about it, as it will be very different than what we've had in the past. So one of the things that we'll talk about tonight is the curriculum revision that we're working on, as well as some of those health and safety issues to address. One idea that we're putting in place is we know even with the continuous learning model, not all students had access to the learning standards over these 9 to 10 weeks of school. So putting some assessments in right away to see what was retained, what was missed, and how we can fill in those gaps. And we also want to maximize the instructional time that we do have. We'll need to keep an eye on accelerated learning because we're going to have to make up for lost time as well as move forward. So how do we maximize that time that we have? And the third pathway is a hybrid learning model, which obviously is a combination of both online and on-site learning. And so a lot of variations for what that could look like. And one of the things the state has provided guidance on is they said to be ready for each of these pathways and be prepared to move in and out of them as conditions warrant. So if we should have an outbreak or we should have a number of teachers who maybe are in quarantine or students and how we might be able to move in and out. Obviously at the state level, if there's a declaration and we're closed statewide, we would be in the online continuous learning model. But there could be things in Polk County or in Southeast Polk District that would have us in variation between the on-site and the hybrid learning model. So we'll be prepared for all 3 of those pathways, and then we will respond as needed for everyone's health and safety. One thing that we've talked about, and I won't talk about this too long, but we talk about this in our curriculum all the time, that there are places where our standards spiral, meaning that we come back to it again. So for example, you don't just do fractions once. You might do fractions once in second, again in third, again in fourth. And every time we revisit it, we add more complexity to it. And then there are times where our curriculum is like a stair step, where it's very sequential and foundational. And you don't want to start on step 5. You got to go to step 1 first, step 2, step 3, etc. So within the last few weeks, we met with each grade level, as well as Spring Creek, the junior high and high school, and started to look at the learning standards that we missed during this closure. And really looking at our curriculum to see where do those learning standards spiral? And if we come back to those again next year, how will we build that depth and complexity? And then also looking at what learning standards are foundational and how are we going to build these? How will we know who has it, who doesn't, and fill those gaps? And then that conversation is any of those curriculum revision, will that be for all students, or will it be for some students, or will some students need additional support in that area? So we've begun that process, and we have some curriculum documents for English language arts, math, science, and social studies. And any work that we do this summer will help prepare us as we start school in the fall to address some of those gaps and those things that we miss. Before I open it up to questions, I do just want to put a few closing thoughts in there. And we had the wonderful opportunity to have a Google Meet with Mike Matos. And Mike Matos is one of the lead presenters for the PLC Institutes that we attend each summer. And we were visiting with him, and we were so thankful that we have that collaborative structure in place, because it would be it's really difficult to do this, but having teacher teams, it's much easier to do with a team approach than it is individually. And so he was visiting with us, and he reminded us that students enter each year with learning gaps. That's not new to teachers. Every summer that we go through, when the kids come back in the fall, some students have gaps and others have had opportunities over the summer. But this upcoming school year, it's going to be even more significant that we address those gaps. And he reminded us that it would be important for us to double down on the improvement practices that we put into place. And some of those practices include collaborative teams. So again, we can do so much more if we're doing this together as a team. Absolute clarity around our PLC practices and the 4 questions. What do we want students to know and be able to do? How will we know if they did it? What will we do if they aren't there yet? And how will we respond if they already know it? And we need to have absolute clarity around those questions. Prioritize standards, and we've done a lot of work in prioritizing our standards. And as he said, prioritize them some more. So what are the absolute things that students need to have to be successful for their next level of work? So if we are short on time or face-to-face contact with our students, what are the things that we absolutely have to have into place? And then having those learning progressions and feedback. And we've been doing a lot of work around standards-based learning, and that is really going to be valuable for us as we move ahead, because it presents all those learnings in a progression and then gives feedback as to where students are in the process and what they need for the next step. So the work that the teacher teams have been doing is going to be very valuable as we move forward. But as he reminded us, it's important to double down on those practices because those are the things that will need most of our attention to help students close those gaps and continue with their learning. So it's a little overwhelming to think about when we put it all together. But again, we have a lot of these things in place. And so it will really be working with them, with the students, and the social emotional impact that this closure has had, along with the health and safety guidelines, that we're anxious to get back with our students when it's safe to do so. And we're confident that we can continue with them on their learning path and move them forward. So a lot of work left to do on the Return to Learn plan, but we've got some initial starts on it, and we will continue to do that work.
Joellen,
oh yes,
I have a question for you.
Sure.
While you guys have been planning and adapting to what might be this, that, or the other thing, has the staff been completely included to make sure that they know they themselves have to plan for just about anything adaptation wise?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That presentation that I just did with you in a more expanded format, we've done over 12 sessions for every teacher in the district. So the other thing that as we work on the work groups of the Return to Learn plan, we will be having teacher leaders on those work groups so they can provide feedback and guidance for those actions as well.
And I'm sure the staff has had some good input on positives that they've discovered over this last few months as well that could help all of our staff grow and develop. As a thought, but that's good. I just want them all to know they're going to have to be even more flexible than they've already been.
Yep.
And quick to adapt as they are.
Yes, they are. And, I think that's a good point. This has been challenging, but we've learned a lot in the process. We still have a lot to learn because there are unknowns. So one of the actions that we've already identified in the plan is to talk to teachers, students, and parents, with this remote learning, what worked, what were the challenges, and what can we do to make that better if we should get into that situation again. So we've been through it once now, and what can we learn from that, and what kind of feedback can we collect from all involved to make improvements as we move forward.
I guess I have a question too, Joellen, because I know this is high level, like just kind of looking down, but it is kind of mind blowing as far as thinking about the curriculum. And if we have 12 different second grade classes, where they were, what they were on, what unit they were on, whether they were all on the same page, and then trying to go in and out between school and online and back. I mean, is it kind of like we're going to have one big unified curriculum so that if something like that happened, we know that all these second grade classes are all on the same page? And, it basically goes from 12 classes down to one when we go online, right?
Right.
I mean, it's just kind of, I'm trying to think of how they're collaborating, and if we have like teacher teams and say, okay, these second grade teachers are going to be responsible for the accelerated curriculum. These are going to be the standard. These are going to be the ones that need more help. I mean, that kind of thing. Is that like too in depth?
No, actually it's not. That's a really good question. And thankfully it wasn't anything we were working towards having a situation like this, but we've been working on our unit design over the last 6 or 7 years and have a pacing guide. And so while there's always a few days window on either side of it, pretty much every second grader across the district is doing the same units of study at the same time. So we've been able to have conversations across the district. And then we've been talking as teams that, one teacher might be the one who does the flipped classroom and we videotape that lesson for ELA, and another one might do that for math, and another one might take the students who need a smaller group but more intensive support. So we really have been working across those teams. And again, they've done such a great job developing those teams, and you as a board have supported that PLC Institute, which helped put those teams together. And honestly, I don't know where we'd be without teams, because if we were trying to do this individually, it would be I think it'd be too overwhelming. So they rely on their teams, and they're very collaborative and creative. They've come up with a lot of creative things to be able to reach their students, and that's been great to see.
Okay, yeah, that's fantastic, because that's kind of all of a sudden when you go online, it becomes, Mrs. Thompson's not my teacher now. I've got 8 different teachers that might be posting a video, and okay, I have this teacher on Monday, this teacher on Tuesday, because they're each, have their own little segments and stuff. I mean, that is crazy. That is really mind blowing as far as how collaborative they have to be and how on top of this.
Yep. Exactly. The good news is for this year, they did a lot of MTSS where they would have flex time, and they might work with another second grade teacher. It'll be more of a challenge when they move to another grade, and we need to form those relationships, not only with our homeroom teacher, but then everybody else on that grade level band. So we'll need to work on those relationships and routines, but yeah, it's pretty different than what we've had in the past.
Yes, thank you.
Tom, I saw you had a question on the chat.
That was just kind of like when they were going through saying like each building has their own links to their classrooms and stuff. And I was wondering if that kind of piled into like our district wide, these are all the resources, or if it was still like pods as far as building Delaware, building 4 Mile, and that was their resources for each one.
When we started, it was very much resource based in terms of here's some things that you can do while you're at home, because at that time, even though we kind of knew in the back of our heads, we were still hoping we would get back to school. After that April, when they said they were going to close for the rest of the year, we divided up the year. There was about 7 weeks left. So we spent about 3 weeks on the second to the last unit of the year and 3 weeks on the last unit of the year. So I would say the last 7 weeks have been more focused around the learning standards from those units. And then that tied into the learning packets as well. So I think where we started very resource-based, we ended with more of a focus, and that focus is what we would take into the next school year should we be in a continuous learning model again.
So like all the kids were basically from the whole district were working on the same thing.
Yep,
right?
exactly, yes.
That's awesome. That's mind blowing, but it's awesome. So.
Are there other questions for Joellen? Comments? I have one, Joellen, in case, if anybody else has something, they can pop in here. I was just wondering, thinking about all this, and like Tom said, from the high level view, and I'm sure you've thought about this, but I'm thinking about, we have that at-risk piece that's I've always viewed as the safety net. And hopefully we're getting information, feedback, so we're grabbing those kids that need help and getting them back up off the net, so they don't hit the ground. Right. They hit the net, they bounce up. I can't imagine. I think that's a lot to do anyway. And what we're facing going in, because there's going to be, the net's going to be full of kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do we do? I mean, what do we do? What do we do to help all those kids? How do we move the resources, I guess, to accomplish that?
Yeah. That's a good question, because I think the work that the school teams in each building has done, we were starting to reduce that at-risk group so that we could get really specific and targeted for those kids. But this just opened that net up again, as you said. So the way that we are entering this is, of course, Amy Anderson's been great in that role, and we've got Daryl Butcher as our college and career readiness, and Lori Wyatt and Charlie Taylor, and we've been working on those ideas. But the one thing that we're noticing for at-risk is engagement, and our students who are more at risk aren't showing up for the meetings and they're not engaging. And so one of our first strategies will be, how do we get those kids engaged? How do we get them involved? It might not be in a class of 20, it might be in a smaller class. So how can we redistribute those resources to meet some of the needs? You might just have to have a session where you just let them talk, because we need to meet them at that level and then move to the learning as we go through. So that is where we're going to start with our at-risk work, but we do anticipate that the number of students we need to reach through that avenue could potentially grow. Yeah, that's a solid point. I think the social emotional learning things that we put into place will also impact that, because I think we need to have kids feel safe in whatever learning environment we're in. And if we can do some work district-wide in that area, that might help us then minimize the groups where we need to do some additional things with that as well.
Thank you.
Joellen, how many special education students are in the district?
Oh, let's see. I think it's about 675, maybe around there. Is that right, Dirk? We're about 10% of our population.
And a lot of those are individual education plans. And I know some online learning is more complicated. How can we do that better this next year if we go back to online, or has there been a lot? I know there's been a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
Are we we're continuing to try and come up with new ideas?
Yes. We've been going to a lot of learning sessions around that. And again, with the IEP, it is very individualized, but having some IEP meetings so that we can look through that lens of remote learning, what might be some of the scaffolds and support, and working through Heartland and some of the others to get some assistive technology to be able to work through that. We're learning that some students do better with that assistive technology. Some students do better paper pencil. So how can we get those paper pencil things to the students as we go through? So that will be probably one of the most significant focus areas for us as we move our plan from voluntary to required.
Okay.
We have met with the special education teachers a few times and having them share with each other what have been their most effective strategies and how they're connecting with the kids. Again, one of the biggest things is the participation piece. So how can we change, you know, will we have it be, the two new terms now are synchronous and asynchronous. So will it be live where everybody's there at the same time? Or will we videotape a teacher so that the student can watch it when someone can watch it with them? And we're looking to have a combination of both of those to meet whatever needs that a student might have.
Yeah, and I worry most about those that don't have as supportive of a family life. I don't want us to miss any of those kids. You know, the complexity of every student's education is important, and I know it just is that much more difficult when we do this remotely, but I want to make sure we step up.
Yep. And I think when we look at that hybrid model, and we're also looking at our English learners, because that online is sometimes difficult if they don't have a lot of English learning under their belt. So if we get into a hybrid model, we will prioritize those at-risk groups as the ones who are face-to-face. So if we can only bring some of our kids in, we're going to prioritize those ones who are most at risk and who most need that face-to-face contact in order to be successful. So those are some of the things that we'll be writing into the hybrid model as we move forward.
Good, Lori. I just think we have to remember that to succeed, it's our people. So we have great people. Our people are going to be what help us succeed. Our ratios are still the same. So when I look at it as a whole, I look at 2,000 kids here, the 675 kids there, and it gives me an ulcer. But then I think, okay, our ratios are still the same. We still have our administrative assistants, our assistants. We still have all of our, our same touch pieces in place. So the kids that need the high touch already had that kind of built in. So we just kind of have to leverage those people and know, we still have our same little groups that they're working with. It's just, we're extrapolating it out. So I don't know. I just think it comes down to our people. As far as our plan is great.
Yeah.
And it's just using our people to be the high touch and to be that extra.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. And we've got some teacher teams doing amazing things to try to reach out to those kids because they don't all have the same. There's a lot of things going on that we might not know about. So it's hard to even determine why someone might participate more than another, but we will have to be flexible, and we will be flexible to reach those students.
We got a quick question. Since we'll be kind of playing catch up, we got the normal summer slide, and we have this amplification, which I've heard some estimates saying that for some kids it could be up to a half a year behind. Is there any chance that there would be a change to the standards that they're trying to adhere to, so that instead of trying to catch everything back up in 1 year, it's kind of spread across multiple years?
Yeah. That's been one thing that we've been looking at. Again, keeping the grade level standards, but I believe that where we are right now, to make up that gap over 2 years. So really, taking that and taking a 2-year span and hoping it doesn't grow any more time away than we've already had. But I think if we try to catch it all up in the first 6 weeks of school, that'll be overestimating what we might be able to achieve. So really being intensifying things, but we're in it for the long haul. We have those students for 13 years and we missed this slice, and we have some time to make that up and to move forward with that. So yeah, we're looking at it over time and maintaining those grade level standards as much as we possibly can.
Anybody have any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Joellen, for all of your work, organizing all of our teams.
Well, and I want to thank you for the professional development support and the PLC support, because those structures, having those in place has made all the difference in the world. And so we appreciate that from you as well. So thank you.
Joellen, when did you say, is the state giving you a mandate on when we have to make a decision on the learning process?
We submit our plan July 1st. And so in that plan, we have all 3 pathways ready. And then as the school year unfolds, we go in and out of those as the situation warrants. But we'll have all 3 of them ready to go.
So we'd be easily to transition if we do the computer and then things start to get better, then.
Yep.
Okay. That's why I kind of took it that way. I just wanted to make sure. So.
No, that's accurate. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brett, there's 2 different plans. There's the return to learn that Joellen was talking about. Then there's also reopening of schools. And so the return to learn is to get ready for whatever the reopening of schools determines. So in August, we'll know where we are at that point based on what the conditions are like within the community.
Okay. Yeah. Somewhere my wheels were spinning. And it's like, well, if we make a decision on what we do, and then based off what the DE wants, and then things get better, we can change. So I guess that's a good thing. So
yeah.
Thanks again.
All right. Thank you, Joellen.
Thank you. I think I'm supposed to make Jason the host again.
Okay. Give in the power.
You just need to stop sharing.
Okay, so let's see.
Oh, that worked. Our next item is Roman numeral 3F, high school graduation and events. Mr. Pettit. Oh, I can't hear you, Steve. Can you hear us? Okay, you can hear us. We can't hear you. Can anyone hear him?
No, maybe it's still coming
Okay.
online.
All right.
Wonder if he didn't sign in with audio.
I like the beard. He can hear us.
He can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear you. You can present in all sign language if you'd like. Or act it out, Steve.
My mitt.
Steve, say something again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
Yep.
Oh, we lost him. I don't know what to do. Jason, are you working on this or?
There's nothing I can do for him.
Okay.
I sent him a phone number.
All right.
Do I need to call in then?
Oh, now I heard you.
Back there, we can hear you.
Maybe just turn up your volume.
Okay, I'll just
That's
talk,
working.
and if you can't hear me, somebody flag me down.
All right.
there are a couple of announcements that I'll make. When it comes to graduation, I have pushed out different communications to the public. You know, really just highlighting the different events that we are going to be doing. You know, the first thing that I wanted you all to know is that for the last couple days, we have had our students come to the high school and pick up things that they've had at the school. Some of those have been graduation items, caps and gowns, honor cords and awards that we would have been distributing at our honors assembly. And of our 506 students that we were planning on having at graduation, we only have 157 sets of caps and gowns left. So, you know, we're 2/3 of the way through our distribution. So, you know, I think our participation and our attendance by our seniors has been great. It's been really awesome to see our kids again. They're all excited to see me, which is all the time, but it's been great to see them. I did want to publicly thank Schneider Graphics. You know, I think you're all aware that they did they donated yard signs for all of our seniors, and it's just great. You know, our seniors, when we present them with that yard sign, you know, it's just something that didn't have to happen, and I really am appreciative of Schneider Graphics for donating that. It's really been great. Jason, I would like to share my screen, so I'm going to do that now. You can give me a confirmation that you can. So
We can see it.
Today we pushed out some information on the district's website, also via our social media platforms regarding the Senior Honors Assembly. Obviously, we couldn't have it this year, but Valerie Powell, one of our counselors, did put together a Google site with a bunch of information. So if you haven't seen it, it is linked on the website, but I wanted to at least preview it so you can go and spend more time looking at it. Basically, what we did is we took our normal presentation and we broke it down with a brief description of what each one of our categories are. For example, the honors diploma. And then we would have a picture and name of all the students that would have felt like this was the best way to honor our kids instead of having it be a 45-minute long presentation. This way families can dig into this website, you know, to look to specifically where they want to find their children, or to just look at the entire class as a whole. So I appreciate the work that Valerie did to put this together, and for all the staff that contributed to some of our outstanding senior awards. So in each one of our departments selected a specific student, and then they would give a brief description on why that student won the award. So again, Valerie did an outstanding job. I appreciate the collaboration. And obviously it's not as good as what it would have been if we would have had our honors assembly recognizing our seniors, but I think it's a pretty nice tribute, and one that that families can see, you know, virtually. Also today, we kind of teased a graduation announcement that really features Gary Fisher.
Whatever.
So on Sunday at 4:30, we'll be having a graduation announcement, and I'm not gonna tip too much of it off, but it really kind of celebrates this time, but it also recognizes, you know, how somber this is. You know, it has some video clips of empty classrooms and you know, our buildings with no one around. And then there's some great messages from our staff, and it kind of culminates with really a confirmation that today, you know, May 24th was the day you're supposed to graduate high school, and you have met our requirements, and you can proudly call yourselves graduates of Southeast Polk High School. So that announcement will be coming out on Sunday. We will send it out via email to all of our seniors, posted on our website. Again, use social media to push that out. And we also have a press release for that afterwards. So again, we're pretty excited about that. It was a combination of the entire staff at the high school putting that together, but Shannon Boshart and Kristen Behrens, there are two staff members that lead our video production course, kind of did a lot of the behind the scene works to make that come together. So we're excited to push that out and celebrate our seniors on Sunday. And then the last thing is our plan right now is to have a face-to-face in-person graduation ceremony on Saturday, July 18th. Not exactly sure where we can have that yet because the social distancing, I guess, requirements that are going to be in place for July 18th, we don't know right now. So, if we could have it in a traditional setting like at the Knapp Center, obviously that would be our first choice. If we can't, then our next choice would probably be at the stadium and have an outside ceremony. If we can't do that, then we'll have to do the next best thing. So again, our commitment is to try to make it as traditional as we can. But again, right now we can't really give a whole lot of details with that. Our goal is to, by July 13th, we'll have a finalized plan. So by July 13th, we'll know where the July 18th event will occur. And with graduation, obviously you have to have a practice. It's hard to have 500 kids going through a ceremony without practice. That I'll take any questions that anyone has.
Board, do you have any questions for Steve?
No, it sounds like a great plan, and I'm glad we're moving forward.
Several of the conference principals, and I think we're all trying to hold on to the same hope. And again, our goal is that we all can celebrate our kids in the most traditional, normal way that we can.
Steve, thanks to you and your staff for moving forward with this, and it's kind of a little different year, but it'll be one to remember, I guess.
I appreciate the effort, Steve, that we're going to try to have an in-person mass graduation of some kind if we can. If we cannot, I mean, a person that works here in my office, I saw her, I guess it was her daughter, graduate from an area school where they just had a few people in, and one kid comes in, they're playing the pomp and circumstances. Is that kind of the fallback if we cannot do it in a group? Or in other words, we'll be doing something, I assume. Oh,
We lost your volume, Steve.
yeah, we lost you again. No.
I can talk if you want to just move your mouth and I'll put the words in.
Yeah.
There, it works.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, if we can't have the in-person large-scale graduation, then we'll do something on an individual basis. I know that there are some schools that have done things where the family would receive the diploma, and then they would have a certain site on their campus where the family would come and they would have their student's name announced, and the family would hand the diploma. There'd be a picture opportunity. So at a minimum, that would be what we would do. Because again, we want to celebrate all of our kids. We want our kids' families to be able to see them get their diploma. There is something to hearing your name be read, and I know from a parent's perspective, that's a moment that we want to provide. And if we can't do it so that everybody gets to hear your child's name, we want to make sure you hear your child's name and you get to see them, whether it's walk across the stage, whether it's walk in front of the building. But we want to take that picture opportunity for your child to be receiving their diploma, because it's a really important time. So like I said, our goal is to have a face-to-face large scale graduation. And if we can't, we'll do the best we can to celebrate our kids.
And I will say for the community, I mean, when I graduated back in the Stone Age, we had our ceremony on the football field. Now we had fewer kids. I think we were closer to 300 than 500, but it's not totally unheard of. Lori, I don't know, did you graduate on the football field?
She
Oh,
read.
your mic. Take your mic. No, you're still muted.
Come on, Lori, tell us where you parked the stagecoaches.
Yep. Darn it. There she is.
Yes, it was on the football field. And then I think the next year too, year after mine, there was some issues. We had drama in my year. And then the next year had drama also, and they had each student spread further apart. So they weren't as close as they were the year that we sat side by side with our fellow graduates, but then they spaced them a long ways apart on the football field as well. And I know back then we did it in the gym also, but that was for rain days.
Yeah, and we do have a rain date. So, I mean, if it does, rain on the 18th or the 19th of July would be our rain date. Hopefully we wouldn't get rain back-to-back days in a row, but that's our plan.
I graduated in a one-room schoolhouse, so
Well, I'm sure we will rely on all of your guys' experiences to put this together, because whether it's one-room schoolhouse individual graduation style, or if it's on the state, the stadium with 500 kids spread all the way across all 100 yards. Again, we're committed to do the best we can.
Thank you, Steve, for all your hard work.
thanks, Steve.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, I need to find my agenda again. Let's see.
Should be it.
I think
Move
that's
to
it.
adjourn.
All
Move to
right.
adjourn.
Can I jump in with
Oh,
one
yeah.
thing really quickly? Sorry to extend, but another thing that we've not been able to do, one of our traditions for this time of year, is to honor our retirees. And I wanted to just have Karen Haynes tell you just a brief second what she and Dr. Belger have been doing to honor our retirees.
We had 19 retirees. Margie created a Facebook announcement, and it's also going to be in the local paper. We have yard signs that were distributed to all the principals and the directors to get them to their employee that is retiring, along with an award gift to be given to them, presented to them also.
Very nice. Dirk, I don't suppose you or Karen have a list of our retirees. I'm just curious.
I do, and I can get that sent out to you.
Okay. Thank you.
And just to say this before, we appreciate all of their years of service to Southeast Polk, to the district, to the students, to the other staff, and to the community. We really, really, really appreciate your service to Southeast Polk.
You're here, Lori.
If we get to have a welcome back teachers thing, can we invite the retirees back to?
That's one of the things we've talked about is kind of bumping things to the fall to be able to do some face-to-face things.
All right. Anything else for the good of the matter? Dirk, anyone? Okay, Rick.
Move to adjourn.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
All right.
Right.